Hi, my name is Benedict. This video is titled The Lure and Lie of AI, which actually rhymes. But before we get into that content, and this is long form, I work in long form, I don't make those little short, annoying, pointless videos, nor do I have large bosoms that are scantily clad. I'm not about that. So if you're about that, feel free to exit right now if you haven't already. Before I get into the lure and lie of AI, why have I been making fewer videos? Well, there's just less point. There is less and less engagement. And that's a pretty sad sort of a thing. And because people don't engage, I don't actually know what people want. So that leaves me being like, oh, well, I'll just do what I feel like doing. And I feel a lot less motivated to make videos that supposedly help people when people don't actually help me back in any way. And of course, plays count for nothing because I can't go to the shop and say, here, I want to exchange these 400 plays I got out of a Japanese website for a carrot. It doesn't work that way. So the whole idea of this channel was about being able to share my expertise, not so people could take it for free, but so people would go, you know what, this guy's better at this stuff than I think I will ever be, or is practical for me to be, therefore I'm going to get him to do my stuff for me, with me, and hire me. It doesn't work that way. The world is not interested in that kind of stuff, which of course leads us to the lure and lie of AI. We are being increasingly fed this idea that AI or some kind of computer shit is going to somehow be able to do it better for us, rather than hiring somebody who knows what they're doing, that supposedly we can use this computer AI BS and it's going to make everything for us. We need to really seriously be questioning why. Why would we fall for this? Art is about the human experience, expressing something, having a conversation. We're going to look into that a little bit more as we go. Again, you're going to be like, oh, I'm out of here because this is not the way that I think it should be done. Good on you, bully for you. If you're winning with that, what do you need to listen to this for? But if you are not winning with that, then doing the same thing, digging deeper into that path, is that going to get you any closer? The AI people, the DAW people, the people that want to sell you subscriptions to DOA plugins, yeah, they're going to want you to believe that. But why? Are you winning with it? When you invest more, are you winning further with it? I'm going to say most likely not. And if that's the case, then stick with me. This requires some thinking and some change of mindset. But maybe you can just do a little bit better, or if nothing else, be a little happier with the results. So the lure of AI has said to us that, oh, well, we can compose the bits that are difficult for you. And increasingly, that seems to be absolutely everything. I was mistakenly suggesting that somebody may use BandLab, so I opened it up just to confirm and be able to help them with this, and it's like, oh, AI can write your piece for you. You'll get a blam and beat, man. So I had a look, and you know what? It was woeful. It was pointless. It was irrelevant. Now, when we listen to a song, and it doesn't matter whether it's Eminem or Metallica or Pink Floyd or the new Kylie song, Padam Padam, we're looking for connection. And if we're not, then why are we turning on music? So your potential audience are looking for connection. And if you start with completely disconnected material, where are you going to go? Absolutely nowhere. So composing is a bust because it doesn't work out. The other one that's where it snuck in, more and more and more people are saying, oh, but, and trying to justify it, is mixing. They go, oh, but it can do a better job than me. And that's built on a very, very flawed idea. If you have a conversation with somebody, hey, Mark, how you going? What do you want as a response? Hopefully, you're looking for some engagement. Yeah, mate, it's all right, but... And you're hopefully looking for a conversation. If you're not, then why are you engaging with Mark in the first place? If you only engage with Mark so that you can feel good about him going, yeah, mate, everything's wonderful, What was the point of that engagement? Absolutely none at all. In which case, why are we doing this? So the idea that our tools can do the job for us is completely missing the point because we've got no engagement. That's why it's a lure to say, you don't actually have to do any work here. You can get all the accolade for supposedly having done something, but you don't have to do any of the work to get there, which means that your content is empty. Imagine, let's use a war motif. Imagine, let's say, that somebody got, I think it's called Victoria Cross, which is like the most meritorious thing. You know, you've got to hacksaw ridge a whole pile of people out of danger before you get one of these things. They're rare. You have to do something pretty darn amazing. And generally, it's not allowed to be just an accident, you know, like winning gold when everybody else fell off their tricycle. It's got to be that you've got to deliver some seriously meritorious kind of event. What would be the value of that medal to not only the receiver, the achiever, but to society at large if that was just handed out to everybody? Which is, of course, exactly the same as everybody gets a gold star and be told that they're a winner simply because they didn't take a day off sick. There is no point anymore. So we've got to say, this has to have point. Now, I'm going to show you a piece that I've probably finished, but I haven't tested elsewhere. So there may be issues, there may be things that I'd want to change. But I want you to listen to it, and I want you to go, how much of this can I hear as being deliberate decisions, as opposed to how much of this might be either just random stumbled over something, tripped up, and everybody else fell over, and he reached the finish line, or was this made by AI? Now, I can tell you outright this was not made by AI. This is not one of those compare AI to real work things, because whenever I look at AI, I just can't even be bothered to play with it. This is a real piece of music. So please, listen to it and consider, what is this person trying to say? Why did they make the decisions they did? Righto, the piece has no name at the moment, it's just document 4. We're at 11 and a half minutes into this program, and I bet most of you are gone. So I'll ask the question, did you skip some or all of listening to that piece? If so, while I kind of understand it, as I start playing the piece, part of me is thinking, oh, how could I have done this faster? How could I have skipped this bit? That's part of the problem. Our whole culture now is about trying to skip bits. So we say, oh, well, that's okay. You can skip the bit where you have to take the time to make your piece of music or mix your piece of music. You can definitely skip the time and the trouble of having to learn how to do any of that stuff. We'll do it all for you. But if you did go through this and listen to this, you might have had questions. Why'd you choose to do this rather than that? Why'd you play your cymbal swell at unrealistic tunings? Why did your hi-hat have a tonal part in it which is unusual? Why did you roll off the bass in your kick drum? Why wasn't your drums louder? Why weren't your drums louder to get better grammar? Grammar matters. Why was your first lead called generato and your second one called repetitivo? Made up Latin words, or Italian at least. What do they say? Why did you choose those? These are all things that help explain what the piece of art is about, what the communication is. If you skip things, it either means you're not interested, or it means you're not interested. You're not prepared to give the time to something or someone. And I know that's the culture of today. But if you skip that and you don't understand it, how can you do it yourself? Which makes you absolutely the sucker fish who's going to champ on the lure that is AI and fall for the lie of it. And go, well, it can do better than me, and it can, and I don't have to. And it's like, okay, when we read a Stephen King book, do we want laziness? I sure don't. The reason that I've enjoyed Stephen King books way more than not is because he is never a lazy writer. He writes a whole chapter for somebody who's just about to kill. And that's chapter 1. We are explained that person. We start to understand and empathize with that person and go, yeah, I know this kind of person. This guy really enjoys his tool belt. And then he's killed. That's not the mark of a lazy writer. A lazy writer will go, there was a guy walking down the street, he got killed. Is that interesting? No, not at all. And that's what an AI will write. Because it goes, well, it's achieved its purpose, it's told its story. It won't stop to think, how do I engage the reader to understand this person, to like them, to dislike them, to want to understand a little bit more about what's going on, and therefore have some kind of feeling when they die. In The Stand from Stephen King, there's a whole chapter section which is just like little short mini stories about somebody and how they died. There is purpose in that. And AI can't understand purpose. If we skip things, we can't do anything. So the answer is, can AI make intelligent decisions? No. Firstly, we have to define intelligent. As you notice, I keep pushing here, it's about communication. And AI isn't actually AI until it has a desire to be or is alive. And AI is not alive at the moment, but we'll keep calling it that because that's what they keep calling it. That's part of the lie. It doesn't exist. It's at best advanced heuristics. What they call neural net is still not actually AI. It's just advanced heuristics of some kind or another. You can split hairs and be pedantic, but that's merely falling for the lure and lie of the whole thing. Data is an AI, but data is a fully functioning being. We accept data on Star Trek as being as alive as you and I. And in many ways, we accept R2-D2, the upside-down bucket, and C-3PO as being fully living, functioning beings. because they show every sign of thinking and feeling. AI, as we have it right now, does not. Therefore, it's not intelligent. It can't make intelligent decisions. In musical terms, because I assume most of you watching this are musicians, but the same applies if you're some kind of painter or knitter or whatever. The same applies. Even if you're a motor racer, the same applies here. You know, your AI can't motor race for you and actually win. Yes, you can hand Forza the controls and say, here, you do it for me. But then you're not playing Forza, you're just watching it. You know, you might as well watch a movie or go watch motor racing. And why would you watch motor racing? To see human beings have to become one with the machine and pit themselves against each other, and maybe sometimes crash and explode. But it's the human element that you're watching there. So in musical terms, I want to hold your hand works because, and I always use this example, because it's so simple. It seems inane, but it talks about something much bigger and deeper. Can an AI do that? No. We already know from chatbot-y type things that what they return is often A, incorrect, B, contentless. There may be lots of words, but it doesn't mean anything because the AI itself, the bot itself, has no understanding, what's called a forwarded meaning. Rock Now, Rock the Night, the Europe song. Could an AI write that? No. Because even if it managed to put those terms together to recognize that there's some kind of tie between rock and roll, rocking, and the other possible meaning of it, and night, and the connections, it wouldn't mean anything, which represents a lot of modern songwriting. I've got to tell you, most of it is gibberish. Why it's not interesting. But whatever. Some people say it's good enough. I don't think so. Rock Now, Rock the Night by Europe may not be as good as the Final Countdown, but it's still a cool song, enough for me to remember it. I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. That's Kiss. That's even more complex, but it's roughly the same thing as what Europe was saying. And yet they're two very discrete songs. We accept that. We appreciate that. We may have a preference for one over the other. We may say, well, one of them is far better and far deeper because we feel it converses with us much better. AI bots can't do that. So in things like, you may see there's some automation here, this pad sound actually moves over time. Do you notice that? Entirely likely you don't. And that's absolutely fine. I'm not asking you to notice these things, but subconsciously part of you does. The pad starts, it gets brighter because I'm opening that filter and then fading it out. It reduces over the path because it's no longer appropriate that it gets in the way of everything else, the other conversation. Would AI be able to do this? Maybe. But the problem is it would be pointless because it wouldn't understand at what point it should do this, nor could it test this to say, is this making the story work better? It may be able to test it and say, well, now we've got less conflict with the 2.5K spectrum, but what does that mean? Abso-freaking-lutely freaking nothing. We'll also see, if we look, that the level gets pushed a little bit. So at the beginning, that pad becomes brighter and shows off more of its tinklies, but then it gets out of the way as we have more stuff happening. And again, you could say, oh, well, I could program something to do that. You know, there's track spacer or whatever. But how can track spacer or that kind of supposed intelligence actually work? How can it know what's more important in here? It can't. It can make some arbitrary decisions based upon someone else's advice. And I've had that over and over, post something in a group or forum, and it's part of why I rarely do anymore, and some fool, and they are a fool because they haven't taken the time to listen to what's really there, to understand why it's being done the way it's done, will simply come along, like in this section here, they'll come along and go, well, dude, your drums aren't loud enough. If you... Now it's better. Well, now your reverb's all wrong. They're like, well, dude, you're a fool because you're not actually listening. This is what the AI is going to do. It's just going to go, well, based on my training set, and the training set that I was given was probably EDM, and, EDM, it's going to say, well, that's not mixed right, and it's going to try and turn those drums into somebody else's idea, rather than being the tiny little roll along that they're meant to be, because they're not the focus of the piece. It's going to say, well, all drums should be the focus of the piece, because it's not intelligent enough to understand the conversation that I'm actually choosing to have. So when we make the mistake of falling for the lure and the lie of AI, that it's going to somehow make our composition easier and more accurate and better and what have you, and that our mixing is going to work, it can't. All we do is make something that's formulaic and entirely pointless. The more we AI'd it, the more pointless it is. The less meaning of the holding of the hand, of the rocking now and at night. There's no point in it. So while there will be more and more people pushing the idea of, but this is good, I don't have to pay someone to do what I don't know how to do. I can know how to do it because the AI has done it for me. Okay, but what are your results? If your results are that you are actually having success and people are saying, wow, you're really improving my life with this, I will concede. But if you don't, I think you should concede, and that you should put in either the time to write properly, which might mean the time to learn to write properly, or actually hire people who are going to know how to write or mix properly. Because if you don't, okay, that's fair enough, but like the last video that I made on the AI thing and why we shouldn't waste our time with it, you're what's called a gamer. That's what I termed as a gamer, as in you just do music for a laugh, in which case that is absolutely fine, but you shouldn't be there telling other truer musicians, craftsmen, how to do their job. And you sure as should not be training AIs how to do things wrong, because that's a little like training your soldiers to rape women and kill children. It's not how war should work. War preferably shouldn't happen at all, but there are rules of war to make war so that it is not as disastrous. I appreciate that some people's idea of war is to turn the women into breeders for our tribe and get rid of all the children so that their tribe no longer exists. But that's savage, and that has no place whatsoever in a civilized society. And yet, that's exactly what we're trying to do with AI. We're trying to get rid of everything that isn't as shallow and pointless as that. Is that what you want to be part of? Do you want to be part of a genocide of what it is to be human? I sure don't.